South Sudan and Haiti project was two different ball games for me, and for two reasons. The first one is the timing I get involved in those projects, and the second one is the type of analysis that we were conducting. For the first one, about the timing, when I joined GWI, the South Sudan data collection was already done, and they couldn't. I think one of the site they couldn't finish that data collection as well. Um, and the questionnaire, it's way different than the questionnaire from Haiti, and it was the first time they were trying to collect data about conflict related, violence against women and girls, and a lot of new question that we we added, and we didn't have the like those questions weren't asked before, so we didn't have that reliability or the consistency that we can how we can use those questions. Um, and and also personally for me was like a time to understand what is the research question, what we were looking for, and how I should conduct that analysis, not only for me, but I feel like for the whole team we were trying to understand how we can best use the data set so that we can have something that makes sense, and the data that we collect, we use it as the fullness we can. um, for Haiti, when I joined, even though the project started already, but it was the beginning of the data collection. I was part of the questionnaire design and data collection on the field, and the programming of the questionnaire. So I understand the questionnaire, and also I understand the research question, what we were looking for. So for me, it was easier for me to approach. Um, so So compare those two, I would say it's one of the things when you're doing data analysis is the research question, and so when you understand what you're looking for, what you're trying to analyze, and to really get it, it's really to go back to your questionnaire. Because if you don't understand your questionnaire, if you don't understand the question they were asked, and how you have to record your variables and stuff like that, and so that you can conduct your descriptive analysis, bivariate analysis, and multivariate analysis, you would be lost. And especially for the substance analysis, because you can go to the questionnaire, the paper questionnaire, and then when you go to the question that was programmed on the tablet, that gives you another understanding of the questionnaire. Where to skip those questions, where that question goes to. And I spent some time to understand, especially because I had it. I spent some time to understand. Okay, when we ask this question, we skip to that one. So that means we don't need answer from the following questions and stuff like that. So you understand your research question, you record your variables, and to record your variables, you really need to understand your questionnaire, and not only the paper questionnaire, but how the question were asked on the field, and what are the different skips and different scenarios that involve. Um, and then once you have that, and you start your descriptive analysis, and you explore everything. Like, don't miss anything. Don't have a priori about, this question should be. You hope that result will be X or Y. No, don't have any a priori. You have to like record everything, and at least for the beginning and for the whole team, you have a descriptive analysis, and most of the time will be like a frequency table of all the different variables that you record. And when you're recording your variables and thinking about your research question, it's important to know which variable are the dependent variable and which one are the independent variable, and you spend time to understand um, how you create those, and most of those variables in general are being tested and used in different contexts. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So use the strategy that has been tested and done in different researches. and use the resources from, especially from the WHO, um, Women Health Survey, because all those variables are there, and the way that we approach them are there as well. So we don't have to invent the wheel. But for the subsidence, we had to, because for other questions related to conflict and stuff like that, we did have those. So we have to figure out how we record this variable related to displacement, trauma, conflict in the community, civil war, stuff like that. So once you have your variable, your research question, your variable recorded, think about your dependent and dependent variable. You run a descriptive analysis, mostly frequency table, and you go with the team, and we start analyzing. We start understanding what's going on, and then you do some bivariate analysis. Most of the time, it's categorical variable. So you will do some chi-square tests, and you can see which variables are related to correlated to each other, and which variable are correlated to your dependent variable as well. And then from there, you take it to your multivariate analysis. And for Haiti, it was more about an intervention that we want to reduce intimate partner violence at the community level. It was like SASA version 2 in Haiti. So we adapt the SASA intervention to the Haiti community. And then we keep it, we have a community for the intervention, and we have a control community. And that was a different way to approach the analysis. It's not like in the substudent where we have a snapshot in time. But this one it was going to be a different snapshot over time, and considering the intervention that happened, how we can really measure the impact of the project. And for that, we need not only to understand the questionnaire, but also to understand how the sampling was done, and how we calculate the effect size, and power analysis and stuff like that. So that when we do the analysis, we make sure that what we're saying is related for that community, considering that the different strategy that we adopted. And same case too with South Sudan, because I would say, like, when I'm saying for that community, that one question when you do analysis, it's that data that you're using, how you can extrapolate it to. Is it for the whole community? Is it for the whole country? You have to be to make sure that your data is you talking about a specific community, or if it's national, it's really representative of the nation. Yes, you do that. But for South Sudan, it wasn't the case, because we had three different community, and it wasn't a representation of the whole South Sudan. So we couldn't say, yeah, this is the whole data for South Sudan. And Haiti, because it was a project focusing on community and really the impact of the SASA project we were doing, it was about that community. Wasn't about the whole Haiti. Um, yeah, I think I covered most of the experience that I think I had through those two analyses. You have your research question, and you design a data analysis plan using your research question, your questionnaire. And then you start recording your variables based on the way that you want them, and based on the way that it makes sense to the analysis. Um, uh, so, and most of the variable will be categorical, and it will be a lot of variables. So once you have that recording of variables, even before the recording variables, I would say you have your research question, and you have your data analysis plan. The data analysis plan will be based on the research question and the questionnaire. So you go over your questionnaire, you note all the questions that are really important to be recorded or to be reported in your analysis. And even if it's not important you think it's not important to be reported, you still record it, and you still run analysis on it to see what you can get from it, like no a priori. But I wish you have a list of, okay, I think those variables should be, we need to consider them. once you have your data analysis plan would be which variable that we want to report, which variable has is the dependent variable, independent variable, um, and which type of analysis I can do on those variables. For descriptive analysis would be if it's um, if it's a continuous variable, you can do mean, mode, variance, and stuff like that. Um, but most of the time with categorical variable, you just report it frequency um, for the descriptive analysis. And then once you get that um, based on the descriptive analysis, you can even decide to, for some, let's say you have age, um, and you can have a group of age like only three. Like let's say you have age and you record age to be a categorical variable. Like you have from 15 to 19, 19 to 24, and it goes on. And you find out in your the your data set that maybe like three people, or let's say 2% of the people of your respondent said that they're between 60 and 64. Maybe you don't want to keep that small category. You can record it as well so that your analysis can be stronger. And then once you have your descriptive analysis, how you can record, like even after the first recording, you can even record your variable after the descriptive analysis. You do your bivariate analysis. Most of the time is going to be chi-square or can be an ANOVA or Pearson correlation. But for us, it's mostly categorical variable. So it's going to be a z-test um, or chi-square test. And then so you do you do your correlation between the dependent dependent variable to all your potential independent variables, and you see which variable you want to use in the multivariate analysis. And one thing to make sure as well too is the correlation between independent variable, because you don't want to have multicollinearity between those independent variables. Like this, the same variable report the same thing. For instance, in the substudent, the fact that someone report that they maybe in the POC, they live in the POC or Juba or Rumbek, that alone said a lot about the tribe, the education and stuff like that. So if the variable tend to correlated, it's that's going to impact your multivariate analysis. So you want to make sure test also the correlation between those independent variable. Uh, so once you have your bivariate analysis testing for the correlation between dependent and dependent variable, independent and dependent variable as well, you go to your multivariate analysis, and it's you start simple. You can have a simple model for each independent variable, that dependent to independent variable, and then you go to another set of model where you include everything, all the independent variable, and you go to another set of model where you keep only the significant independent variable in your model. And for those models, that can be most of the time we use logistic regression because it's yes or no, you're a survivor of violence or not. Um, and that was for the substudent. For Haiti, it was more complex. We we test different model, and because we were in different community and there might be correlation at the level of responses between those sampling unit, primary sampling unit. We wanted to use the generalized linear mixed model where we take into account interaction effect between someone in that community. Maybe they respond like this because they are in that community or in that part of the community. We wanted to take into account, but it didn't make any difference between the simple and complex model. And most of the time, go simple. You don't have to go really complex. Go simple if the complex is not giving you something like meaningful. So we just use the logistic regression, and we add the interaction effect about time and community because this is where we want to test if the program is having an impact. That's what we call the difference in difference analysis. Um, but it's a long process and it involves not only me coding the variable into the analysis, but also the whole team and we put at each state like the script and this is what I got, and we go over it and we understand it. We go to the variant analysis and we go to the multivariate. It's a process that you're not alone to do it, but you do it with the whole team. Um, if you're on a project with a team, if you're alone and doing your dissertation, consult with your director or anyone who's supporting you in that process as well. Maybe one thing I will add is there are different statistic that you can use as well to test you the fit of your model. So use those as well as much as you can. And I talk about logistic regression because it's mostly bivariate analysis, but we can use more more different model as well, and we can even think about different ways to measure the dependent variable. You know, if it we can make it ordinal. You know, most of the time, for instance, in the in our model, we say if a woman doesn't answer a question about intimate partner violence, for instance, or non-partner violence, we say it's a no. Maybe we can say, okay, for those people who don't answer, that might be a category by itself. And then we change the model to be not only logistic, one or zero, but we have three categories. You say yes, you say no, and you say you don't know, or you didn't answer. And those might be you can go and that way you need to use a multi-normal logistic regression where you have more than two category and you can run their model. That's just for an example. But in general, I would say best practices to follow. Um, it's you have to understand your data. Um, if you don't understand your data, you won't be able to do any analysis on it. You have to understand your question that you're trying to answer, and if possible, if you can understand all the sampling strategy and uh, and have a good understanding how the data was collected in the field and stuff like that, that really helped. And I can tell you the difference that made for me is because I was part of the data collection in Haiti. It was more intuitive for me to do the data analysis, you know, because I was part of it. I know how people react, and we have that debriefing every day, and people reporting how was the field for the day and the experience that they found. For me, that was even without the qualitative, it was already some feedback from the qualitative. That's okay, and I hope to find, you know, more economic violence, you know, for instance, instead of sexual or physical violence, like just an example. Or people don't really understand sexual violence, you know, for them it's not a problem, stuff like that. When you're part of it, when you're in the field, if you have that opportunity, yeah, do it. You know, be involved. Not just wait to have the data and start your data analysis. Be involved at the beginning. You know.